The end of May saw the release of round 19 of the TechEmpower Benchmarks. And as always, Asp.Net Core has done pretty well in these benchmarks. But you know what? There are some other .NET Core-based frameworks out there which have also done pretty well. Let's smash on that. Hi everybody and welcome to another episode of the Asp.Net Monsters. In today's episode we're going to take a look at the TechEmpower benchmarks and another framework. So to start with, these are the TechEmpower benchmark results. So this is the composite result, so this is a combination of the 5 separate benchmarks, I think it is 6 separate benchmarks into one. So if you're not familiar with the TechEmpower benchmarks, this is a suite of benchmarks. This is the 19th round that they have been run. Officially, they run these things in the background all the time, but this is round number 19. And the idea here is to give people an idea of which frameworks are fast, which languages are fast. So if you're looking to build a really big website or a really big web application, then you can take into account what technology you use so that you can choose the trade-off between how fast it is to develop your application versus how fast your application is going to run and how much hardware you're going to need to run it. So Asp.Net Core has placed here in position number 6, which is super good, and I feel like they're totally within striking distance of whatever JubyX is. They're only 0.1% faster, but this is the result of years of efforts by not just the Asp.Net team, but also the .NET framework team, the Windows team, basically everybody at Microsoft to really climb up these rankings. So this is really impressive. I don't think that ASP is on this list, but if it was, it would be like, wait, oh, it is. It's in 103rd position. Look at that.
Literally right at the bottom.
Yeah, like you can almost not get worse performance than ASP.NET.
Interesting.
But there are actually some other kind of .NET based frameworks on this list. So I wanted to take a look at one of those today. And the one that I wanted to take a look at is this F# framework called Giraffe. So this is not the first kind of web framework that's built on F#. It's probably not even the most popular. So there is another one called Suave, but the difference here is that Suave is built out kind of using its own separate stack. So the idea behind Suave is that you're going to use kind of slightly different abstractions for everything. So there's different kind of HTTP abstractions and those sorts of things, which means that Suave doesn't run directly on Asp.Net Core. It runs its own kind of separate thing, which means that it doesn't benefit from all of the cool security stuff, all of the cool like .NET stuff, all of the performance improvements, all of that stuff. It doesn't get direct benefit from that. Giraffe takes a slightly different approach, and the idea behind Giraffe is that it is a closer cousin to Asp.Net Core, and in fact it runs on Asp.Net Core. But it uses F#. So if you like F# or you want to get into F#, then this can be a more functional way of writing Asp.Net Core. So let's take a look at this really quickly here. So I have here set up a couple of projects. Yeah, so we'll start with this one here. So there is a template that you can install. So you can do a .NET new Giraffe, which I mean is delightful in and of itself, but it will new up a brand new application for you right here. So I've already done that in this directory called Ossicones. Now, do you know what an ossicone is?
I have no idea what that is.
So this is your learning opportunity of the day. It's those little like lump things you see on top of giraffes' heads, which we're not entirely sure what they do, but might have something to do with temperature regulation.
I always just called them funny horns.
Funny horns would have worked too, but I wanted to show off that I knew a word today. So that was, I think that's really the whole purpose of this video, is to show off that I knew a word. So we could end it right now. But if we take a look at this program.fs here, you can see that it's got a pretty similar structure. There's a lot of stuff in here that you're going to see that is familiar if you have taken a look inside of the startup and program CS inside of an Asp.Net Core C# project. So this is built right now against .NET 2.1 and Asp.Net 2.1. So it still uses some of the older conventions. A lot of this stuff has been cleared up in sort of the 3.0 timeframe, but it's still very familiar, I think. So we use Kestrel, we set a content route, we set some IIS integration, a web route, set up some configuration, and then build and run. And then maybe the only thing here is that we return a 0, so you might not be used to this if you haven't written any F#, but in C#, the entry point does return an integer, but you don't really have to. You can get away with not returning anything because it's the entry point. But in F# we enforce that, so you have to have a little 0 there. And if we go back through it, everything again looks very familiar for anybody coming from a C# background. So we configure the logging here. We add these same sort of filters here. This is basically how you write a Lambda in F#. So same idea here. We add console and debug. We're adding services to our service collection here. So we add cores, we add Giraffe. Scrolling up a little bit further, we configure the application. So same sort of thing here. We start off with a hosting environment. We run this little pattern match here. So this is an F# convention, but a lot of this is being adopted into C# now too. So if we're in a development environment, we use a developer exception page. Otherwise, we just use this Giraffe error handler here. We've set up some configuration of cores here. And then scrolling a little further, we can see an error handler here being defined. So that's the error handler that's here. And then if we get right up to the top here, we can see we've set up a routing table here. So there is endpoint routing coming in Giraffe. I don't think it's quite there yet, but I saw some commits and some pull requests related to it. So at the moment, it's still using sort of this older syntax that you can still use in kind of C# based Asp.Net Core as well. So we set up a route. So we're saying here that this is our default route here. We're going to use the index handler for that, and we'll pass this parameter world in. Otherwise, we're going to use this other route here, and we're going to pull a string out of the URL path and pass that along. So scrolling up a little bit further, we can see this is sort of the default way of building a view inside of Giraffe. So this is actually ported from Suave. So this is the view engine inside of Suave. And you can see that it's kind of pedantic, I think. Like this is a difficult way to build up an HTML document in my mind. I mean, you're always going to get a nice, well-formed document, but like you could not give this to a designer. You could not expect anybody to come in here and build this right off the bat. So it is a little bit difficult to understand. And this to me is kind of like the main falling down for somebody who's going to come straight into this language and try and build on this framework.
If you're using a view engine, I assume you could just return like JSON stuff. Too, right?
Yeah. So if you didn't need to use a view engine, you could do that too. So if we go back down to like our routing stuff, wherever I put that, we find this index handler. So this is actually using the view. So this doesn't actually have to return a view. Like this could return just pure JSON if you were just building some sort of a JSON-based web API. Fortunately, you can, when you're building the project, specify a view engine. And one of the view engines that you can use is the Razor View engine, which everybody is familiar with. So I have a second project here called Legs, another part of a Giraffe. And this setup looks very familiar, but we're actually just going to add this Razor View engine and give it a view folder path. And the views that you get are exactly what you would expect to get. So they're still written in C#, so they're still interpreted in the same way. And you can just move anything over here from your C# project. So the same sort of concepts that you have, so index page layout, and then you can pull a partial in as well. And then, of course, you can pass a model to that as well. And so this allows you to write more C#-ish or more Razor-ish stuff as well, but still take advantage of Giraffe's functional model in the backend. So I think it's pretty cool. It is certainly a different take, and I have made like maybe 10 attempts to really get into F#, and I really like it as a language, but it's tricky to find projects to work on with it and find clients who are interested in, I guess, using a language which doesn't have quite the same level of adoption as C# does. But yeah, it's pretty good, I think.
Yeah, it's definitely a big win how easy they made it to plug in a different view engine. That's
Yeah, and there is support for other view engines as well. I've already forgotten what they all are. Razor, but there was some documentation somewhere about different view engines that you can use. But this is the kind of page for it. So this is github.com/giraffefsharp, Giraffe. And it is a fairly active repository, so there's stuff going on all the time. Here, there's a bunch of pretty active pull requests and discussions going on. Even when I looked at this the other day, so it's definitely still a lot of development happening on it, and a lot of discussion going on with it about how to grow it and continue to maintain it.
That's really good to see.
Yeah, I'm happy to see such a healthy project kind of taking along here. So if we take a look at the TechEmpower results, it's not, Giraffe doesn't show up in the composite results because I think there's some stuff that it doesn't have tests for, but I think it might be in here. So Giraffe, it comes in at number 134 here, which is a lot lower than the Asp.Net core. But I strongly suspect that it was not updated for .NET 3 when they did this run, so it probably is still a little bit, it's suffering a little bit from, I don't want to say the performance limitations of .NET Core 2, but it's missing out on the advantages of .NET Core 3. So maybe by the next round they will have fixed that up.
There are some other ASP core projects that are kind of in the same area as well. Looks like there's a VB something or other.
I don't know what some of these things are.
Me neither.
Microclass realistic approach.
I
don't know.
There are a lot of different versions of these tests.
Yeah, and so we can actually filter some of the stuff down here. So if we filter for disable here, so C#, F#, VB, I guess, we can get another idea of what sort of stuff there is here. So I mean, there's 30 different frameworks here, which is more than
a lot of things I don't know about. Looks like zebras are quite a bit faster than giraffes.
That surprises me a little bit. I thought giraffes were pretty fast, but so maybe we'll have to take a look at this zebra, as I'm trying to convince my children that it's called next time. Yeah, and Suave, which I mentioned too, is down here as well.
Cool.
Yeah.
Hey, flip over to plain text for a second and clear out your filters.
Enable all. Sure.
Oh, look who's at the top.
Oh, look at that. Top of the heap. So
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's super impressive to get this stuff done like this. I'm really enthusiastic to see such care and attention being paid to speed ups, and I know that there's even more stuff coming in the .NET 5 kind of horizon that will make things even faster. I don't know if we'll see stuff up as high as Drogon, but I'm prepared to trade a little bit of speed for usability,
up
up to a certain extent. I mean, it's sort of like you get to a point where it's just like it's diminishing returns. And I know that the Drogon in particular is a C-based framework, so just that kind of intimidates me in using it, knowing that I might have to handle like pointers and pointer arithmetic and those sorts of things.
Yeah, it would have to be a very specific use case that would convince me to go down that path.
Yeah. All right.
Cool.
Well, thanks everybody for joining us on this episode of the Asp.Net Monsters. Remember to like, comment, and share. And we'll see everybody next week.
Bye.
Bye.